Now, the Eagles might be on their bye week, but Howie Roseman, he has some work to do as multiple starters are set to come off of injured reserve, while Dallas Goedert and Nakobe Dean, they're headed to IR. Although there's a good argument that Dean being out might be a good thing for the Birds' defense, and just because the roster spots are filled doesn't mean Howie can't go back into free agency and add some depth at tight end and pass rusher. More information on that, I'm Thomas Mott. This is the Thomas Mott Show. I hope you guys are enjoying the bye week as much as Jason Kelce apparently is. Looks like he's in Chicago yesterday. Here he is in front of a famous hot dog spot in downtown Chicago, talking it up with Andrew Whitworth, former Pro Bowl offensive lineman. You think they're talking about how both the Eagles and the Sixers today on November 9th are atop their respective conferences and basically have no players with drama on their rosters? Now, I know it might not stay that way for long, but in the words of Meek Mill, we all used to pray for times like these. By the way, if you're new to the channel, I'm Thomas. I talk about Philadelphia every single day here. We're about 200 subscribers away from 26,000 here on the channel. If you haven't hit the sub button, go ahead and smash it. I'd greatly appreciate it. And when it comes to a bye week and drama, Howie doesn't get a bye week, but he does get a little bit of drama as Philadelphia has some roster spot openings and some roster moves to go ahead and make. Right now, they're going to get 2 or 3 players back from IR after the bye week and only have a couple of open spots to fill them with. For instance, Roby already confirmed he's coming back. Cam Jurgens, he's also likely back as well. And remember Watkins, his revenge year that basically wasn't turning into that at all? Well, he posted a boomerang on IG with a caption soon, along with his cleats, meaning he's probably going to be back for the Chiefs game as well. Now, if you're keeping track, Philadelphia only has a couple of roster spots that are technically available. My guess is Dallas Goedert will go to IR very, very soon. Nakobe Dean, he went to IR officially yesterday. That frees up a roster spot, but Howie's going to have to figure out one more available opening in order to bring Watkins back. Now, speaking of Dean, you probably saw on our show yesterday, he has a Liz Frank injury on his foot, although it's worth noting it's the opposite of the one that put him on IR just a couple of weeks ago. He is now going to miss at least 4 games, although, as Ralph pointed out on Twitter, a Liz Frank can take anywhere from a few weeks to a few months to heal, depending on the severity and, of course, of action. An IR stint seems definite. It's not out of the question. It could be season-ending as well. Now, Dean is going to get a second opinion. I think we're going to hear from that sooner rather than later, but he's at least gone for the next 4 games, and like Ralph just said, it could be a lot longer. Now, it is a tough blow for the young linebacker who should have been a first-rounder, then became a third-rounder, then was going to be the starter this season, then got injured. Now he's injured again, but I'll be honest, Nakobe Dean has been a liability in coverage so far at the linebacker spot for Philadelphia. I mean, outside D.I. Birds pointed out on Twitter, he has a 92% completion percentage and a 102.4 passer rating in coverage this season. That is 3rd worst in completion percentage by a linebacker with over 100 cover snaps in the entire year. Now, for reference to just how bad that actually is, remember 2019 Nathan Gary, the Eagles' top linebacker who was absolutely atrocious? Well, Gary was better at coverage in 2019 than Dean has been so far here in 2023. The simple truth is that Zach Cunningham and now Nicholas Morrow have been better. They've not been perfect by any means. They've been better linebackers overall for Philadelphia, and now with Dean officially being out, there's no need to even get him onto the football field or try to prove that he's not a bust. Philadelphia can now have their best 2 linebackers out there going forward, and hopefully that means better overall defensive play. Side note, I know everybody on here, especially in my comment section, has been imploring the Eagles to draft a linebacker the past couple of seasons, and this coming draft, you have someone named Jeremiah Trotter Jr., who, yes, is the son of the Axeman, Jeremiah Trotter himself, maybe the last great Eagle linebacker that has played in the old Midnight Green. I'm all for drafting Jeremiah Trotter. You know I would love to get this guy out of Clemson onto the Eagles defense, but can I just be honest with you for a second? When has Howie Roseman ever taken a linebacker in the first round, or at least gotten close to drafting a linebacker in the first round? Dean didn't work out. He was a 3rd round draft pick. I'll be very surprised if Howie doesn't go either offensive line or defensive line because, as we all know, it's Howie Roseman, and he doesn't think linebacker is that important. Well, I'm curious, if you're like me and you want Jeremiah Trotter Jr., drop a like down below. I want to see how many people would prefer to get a linebacker in the first round versus going with the O-line or D-line. And the other IR candidate is Dallas Goedert. And while I know that the Birds are not going to call Rob Gronkowski, despite what some clickbait headlines would love to lead you to believe, Nick Sirianni did mention that Howie is doing his due diligence when it comes to bringing in another tight end.
We'll always look for the best ways to make this team better and see what, obviously you're limited as far as any trades or anything like that. We're hopeful Dallas will make a good, clean recovery and be back sooner, when he's ready to be back. But we'll always be looking to Howie does a great job, always looking to improve the football team.
That doesn't mean they will bring in another tight end. They have 3 viable options behind Goedert on the depth chart, including Grant Calcaterra, Jack Stoll, Albert O, all of which are either pro run blockers or pro pass catchers and need to be worked onto the field in different capacities. I also think Julio Jones, who basically is a tight end with his speed at his old age right now, could take up some of the Dallas Goedert, maybe even routes or pass catches in the red zone. But I did see a ton of people in my comment section the past couple of days mention Philadelphia should go to the free agent market and look for a tight end like a Cameron Brate or even an O.J. Howard in order to go ahead and fill up that spot that Goddard's going to leave empty. And honestly, O.J. Howard makes some sense. He's 6'5". He's a former first-round draft pick. He's a pass-catching tight end in the mold of Dallas Goedert. But whenever you look at somebody who's a free agent right now, you have to wonder why. And when you do the research on O.J. Howard, you realize that he signed with the Las Vegas Raiders this offseason for pennies on the dollar, and then was cut before training camp even came to a close. And since then, no one's even thought to kick the tires on him, even though there are other teams that have needed pass catchers and tight ends. In fact, Howard never caught more than 35 passes in his entire career after being drafted in the first round, and the past 3 seasons, he's never eclipsed 150 yards receiving. And for all those reasons, I'm probably out. Honestly, why can't you just give these targets to Albert O? I mean, the guy still has the size, he has the frame, and he has the pass catching ability proven in Denver over the past couple of seasons. I would at least give him some more opportunities, put him in that Dallas Goedert tight end position, and hey, he either succeeds or he fails, but at least you know what you have in Albert O. Now, if you did want Philadelphia to go up to the waiver wire, the free agency market, and add somebody to their practice squad who could contribute as a depth overall player, I'm with Josh Davis, the Philly Special, who released a video yesterday mentioning Jason Pierre-Paul, and honestly, this makes some sense. Now, you remember Jason Pierre-Paul as a superstar pass rusher, firework incident, losing fingers and everything, but Jason Pierre-Paul of last season is 34 years old. He was with the Baltimore Ravens, played 13 games, and only accumulated a couple of sacks. He did recently confirm, though, that he wants to sign on a team's practice squad who is also a contender, and I know a practice squad that has an open roster and also is a contender. It feels like it makes some sense because Philly's been desperately searching for that number 4 pass rusher behind Josh Sweat, Hassan Reddick, and Brandon Graham, and recently they sat Derek Barnett against the Dallas Cowboys, but only played Nolan Smith for 9 total snaps. They clearly don't think Smith is the guy right now. I think Pierre-Paul, even at 34, could be that potential number 4 pass rusher and slide into that Chris Long role that Philadelphia's been desperately trying to find. Remember, last year at the trade deadline, they traded for Robert Quinn to do exactly that. The problem is Robert Quinn was completely washed. All you'd have to do is give Pierre-Paul, 10, 12, 15 snaps in a game? And if he's healthy enough and young enough and fresh enough on those legs, it could make some sense in order to get after the quarterback. Now, as always, I preface this, there's no actual reporting saying Philadelphia has called Jason Pierre-Paul or that Pierre-Paul's even interested in Philadelphia, and I always want to preface that because I like to make fun of channels that do try to sell you this idea that the Eagles are calling Jason Pierre-Paul. They're not, but if you guys are interested in him, let me know down below. I would at least be okay with the signing because he'd be cheap, he'd go to the practice squad, knock the active roster, can elevate him 3 times to see if he's any good. It just makes too much sense. Now, speaking of not making sense, Philadelphia versus Dallas was a couple of days ago, and yet have you guys been surprised by how many people on Twitter keep complaining about the refs or complaining about how Dak was better, complaining how the Eagles got lucky? I mean, look at this video here from someone named Dylan Wilkerson. I have no idea who this guy is, but basically he says Dallas was better than Philly, and the Eagles aren't good because they've almost lost some games.
Dallas outgained Philadelphia by over 100 yards, had 7 more first downs. Dallas dominated this game, and the Eagles come out the winners here, not just in terms of the game, but in terms of media as well. Everybody's, this Eagles team's so good. Well, let's pump the brakes on that a little bit because there are a lot of games that they've won that maybe they shouldn't have.
Okay, so I guess being 8-1, beating Dallas, not having an embarrassing loss to the Cardinals, and then a blowout loss to the 49ers means you're still better than the Eagles? Like, what are we even saying here? I'm not saying that the Cowboys were bad on Sunday against the Philadelphia Eagles, but one team won, one team lost, one team is 8-1, and another team is 5-3. There seems to be a big difference here in record and head-to-head record right now. Can we stop with this whole idea that the Eagles are not as good as the Dallas Cowboys? What is going on? I guess I understand way more now why Jason Kelce confirmed that he wasn't yelling or screaming at the Dallas Cowboy player in this viral clip. He was actually laughing at him.
I actually wasn't screaming. I was laughing as loud as I could in his face.
That's a laugh.
I was going like this. That's exactly what I was doing. Yes.
You were
and
like bringing him closer with everything.
That's what I was doing.
Here's hoping Philadelphia gets the last laugh, as today is my mother's 60th birthday. Shout out to my incredible, amazing, Eagle-loving mom. And for her birthday, I got her tickets to the Eagles-Cowboys game because she's in Texas. Josh Davis is in Texas, and I'll fly there as well when Philadelphia heads to Jerry World on December 10th. And here's hoping Philadelphia can prove everybody wrong that the Eagles are, in fact, better and beat the Cowboys twice this year because Mama Mott's going to be in attendance, and the Eagles have never lost when she's been there. And we got plenty more stuff happening in the next couple of days and weeks as we get closer to 26,000. I appreciate each and every one of you. Let's get the growth going. I'm Thomas Mott. This has been the Thomas Mott Show.